What if I told you that for 99% of human history, couples had to make sex with family nearby and 20 people sleeping just 5 feet away? Hard to imagine, right? Today, a shut door and a dark room feel completely normal. Back then, there were no doors, no walls, no bedrooms, just darkness, bodies, and no way to ever truly be alone. So how did ancient humans ever get any privacy? The short answer, they mostly didn't. The long answer is far stranger, and it explains exactly why you feel the way you do tonight. So look at the arrangement. For roughly 300,000 years, humans lived in bands of just 15 to 50, and you weren't only related to those people, you were pressed against them every waking hour. You slept in a warm heap of bodies. You ate at the same fire. Every argument, every secret, every intimate moment landed within arm's reach of someone else. There was simply nowhere to put a self that was yours alone. Anthropologists who live with modern foraging groups keep finding the same 3 tricks. The first is timing. Almost everything private happened after dark, when people were asleep or politely pretending to be. Darkness became a kind of privacy even when walls didn't exist. The second is distance. A couple would drift away from camp not far because beyond the firelight was where things ate you but far enough. 50 feet into the dark is, for all practical purposes, invisible. And the third, the important one, is pure social agreement. Everyone simply pretends not to notice. You already know exactly how this works. Think of a packed elevator, strangers inches apart, every one of them staring at the floor, granting each other a privacy that physically isn't there. But here's the twist that flips the whole thing. Wanting privacy may be far less universal than you assume. In the foraging societies we've studied most closely, like the Jew Honzi of the Kalahari, tracked by anthropologists for decades, daily life plays out almost entirely in the open, and being alone isn't peace. It's exposure. In a world with no walls and no police, the people around you weren't your audience. They were your security system. To step away by yourself was to be unguarded, and to be unguarded was to be prey. Wander off alone, and you might simply not come back. So nobody hungered for the thing you now build your entire home around. The solitude you shut a door to enjoy tonight would have looked, to them, like a slow and lonely way to die. Or a public bathroom. You can hear the people around you, they can hear you, and everyone silently agrees to act as if they can't. That isn't modern manners. That is an ancient human protocol building invisible walls out of mutual, deliberate blindness. Ancient humans were masters of it. They had no private space, so they manufactured it together by looking away. And it ran deepest at night, the third of your life you spend asleep. Ancient humans slept in a pile. Not by preference, but because the dark was cold and full of teeth, and a knot of warm bodies was the only safe way through it. At Ohalo 2 in Israel, archaeologists found shelters 23,000 years old, barely big enough for a family to lie down, everyone touching, no one able to roll over without nudging someone awake. That stayed normal for tens of thousands of years. Even in medieval Europe, a whole family shared one bed. A child having a room of their own is a shockingly recent idea, barely a century old. And your body still remembers all of it. Sleep scientists have found that on your first night somewhere unfamiliar, half of your brain refuses to fully shut down. It stays lightly awake, on watch, ready to jolt you up if something moves. They call it the night watch effect, and 100,000 years after the fire went out, half your brain still stands guard when you sleep somewhere new. So when did privacy actually begin? With agriculture, around 10,000 years ago, we stopped chasing the food and started growing it. And growing it meant staying put, and staying put meant building things that lasted, walls. For the first time, someone could step behind a wall and vanish from everyone else's eyes, the distant ancestor of the door you shut tonight. But even then, privacy was a luxury item. Only the wealthy had rooms of their own. Everyone else still lived, slept, and fought in one shared space. Privacy as a right, as something every single person simply expects, is only a few centuries old. You treat it as basic, ancient, obvious. It's actually one of the newest things about you. And here's the bill that came with the walls. We finally got what no ancestor could even imagine: total on-demand solitude, and it is quietly hurting us. When researchers pooled decades of data across millions of people, they found that loneliness and isolation raise your risk of an early death on the order of smoking. Being cut off from other people isn't just sad, it's a physical hazard wired that deep into us. We spent 300,000 years unable to be alone. Now you can be alone the instant you want, and we have never been lonelier. So this is the answer. Ancient humans had privacy through agreement, not architecture, timing, distance, and the quiet mercy of everyone choosing to look away. They didn't need to be alone, because a human alone was a human in danger. Then we learned to farm, and we raised walls, and behind those walls we slowly built the exact world you are sitting in tonight, a world where you can close a door and simply disappear. For 300,000 years, no human was ever truly alone. Then we invented the wall, and we've been trying to feel less alone ever since.